Could Dr. Sebren de Kuiper, aka Sigma, beat Elden Ring? What I mean by this is basically pluck Sigma from Overwatch and drop him into the lands between. Could he rise to become Elden Lord or fizzle out trying? Being a massive slow-moving tank, sure, it sounds a little improbable, but then again, people have beat this game without rolling and while only walking, so surely it can't be that bad, right? Let's break down what we'll be working with, and the biggest issue in this entire problem. Stats. We'll be taking all of our info from in-game and from the Sigma cinematic. First off, Sigma has 4 in-game abilities that he uses excluding his ultimate. First up is the Sigma Balls. Sigma Balls aren't anything too special in particular. In Overwatch, they do 60 damage, can bounce off walls, and slightly pull the target closer to the center of the ball blast. God, I need to rename that. Second, we have Accretion. This one is actually not that bad. Sigma makes a big fucking rock and chucks it at the enemy. The rock itself does a nice chunky 100 damage and can do up to 40 splash damage. It has some nice knockback too. Third up is Kinetic Grasp. This is the least problematic of his abilities today. It basically functions like Eternal Darkness from Elden Ring and just sucks up any projectiles coming his way. Things like bullets, bombs, other Sigma balls, but not things like hammers, whips, swords, etc. Kinetic Grasp is more than just a vacuum cleaner though. This little ability can be used to heal Sigma as well. The more objects Sigma consumes, the more overhealth he gains, which is temporary, but don't underestimate its use. If the enemy in question is spamming or just has a particularly happy trigger finger, this sucky-wucky will fetus deletus any trash coming your way, with the added bonus of giving some delicious overhealth the more trash you suck up, granting up to a maximum of 400 additional HP with the overhealth he gains. Except for boulders apparently. For some reason Sigma can't commit self-suck and absorb his own accretion rocks. Fourth, we have his Barrier, which can take up to 700 damage before shattering. He can extend it indefinitely, but his numbers aren't important for now. Last up is the Big Kahuna, the one that absolutely broke my brain while writing this script. His ultimate, the gravital flux. With this ability, Sigma becomes God and lifts himself and the opponent up into the sky. After about 2 awkward seconds where you stare into each other's souls, he slams you down harder than a raging COD addict. This doesn't have a set number either. This is a percentage-based ultimate. Basically, when you smash them harder than I did your mother, they take 50% of their max HP. So if someone like Kiriko, who has 200 HP, gets slammed, they take 100 damage. If their HP is anywhere below 101, it's a confirmed kill. Sigma himself can kinda fly. I mean, there was a bug not too long ago that let Sigma enter creative mode and fly forever, so if you want to call that canon accurate Sigma, then go for it. So, with flight and no stat adjustments, can Sigma become Elden? Yes, he most definitely can. Even if we didn't scale his attacks and just left him as is, he most definitely would roll every boss, and that's because bosses in this game just weren't made for flying tarnished. The hell is a waterfowl dance gonna do against a Boeing 47? So, we can all agree that Sigma being in creative mode is unfun for this video? Yeah? Good. Because here's where the issues arise. Sigma's stats. More specifically, his health. I spent the better part of an hour scratching my head at these calculations, and no matter what you end up with, it feels wrong. Hopping back over to Overwatch 2, I measured Sigma's HP using the most basic bitch class in the entire game, DPS. Across the board, DPS usually had 200 HP. There were a few outliers like Bastion having a surprising 300 fucking HP, or Tracer having 150, while our boy Sigma has 550 HP. Great. With these numbers, we can conclude that Sigma has 275% the HP of an average person, or 2 3/4 if you're boring. With these numbers, I hopped back over to Elden Ring and looked at all the starting classes. The majority amongst them was 10 Vigor, which was 414 HP. And here's where some more problems start to arise. There are 2 ways you could go about this: Vigor strats and stat strats. strats, as I'm calling them. Vigor strats would be just taking the average vigor, which in this case is 10, and just giving Sigma 275% of that, aka 27 vigor, or 27.5 if you're a nerd, which would give him 870 HP exactly. Or you could take the stat strats of someone with 10 vigor, which is 414 HP, and just ask Google what is 275% of 414, and boom! You have 1138 HP, a little over 33 vigor.
Was there a miscalculation?
Both make sense, but when you look at how we got to both, it doesn't make sense we got two answers. I decided to go with the stat strat instead of vigor strats because Sig is gonna need all the help he can get. And just in case you were wondering, if Sig were dropped into the lands between, his HP would look like this, which feels so wrong and absolutely looks like it's too big until you look at it like this. Also, in Overwatch, if Sigma were to reach maximum overhealth while being fully healed, he'd have 900 HP. That's 900 HP. Plugging that into the formula we got earlier gives us a nice chunky number of 1863 HP total if the stars aligned. That is close to someone with 58 vigor. Will he always have this much? No, but big numbers make me smile, which is why you should subscribe. This is when his barrier comes in. As mentioned earlier, it has 700 HP, which if we plug into our formula from earlier, we find that the shield has 1449 HP in Elden Ring. Pretty fucking beefy if I do say so myself. That is one, count it, 1 HP point away from someone with 40 fucking vigor. Finally, I know math sucks, I'm sorry for taking too long, and I'm pretty sure I made a mistake somewhere, but we need to quantify his damage. We could be lazy and just input his damage from Overwatch 2, which is a massive disservice to Sigma, or we could do some math yet again. Fun! We know Sigma balls do 60 damage in Overwatch 2. That's 30% of the average person's HP, which is 200. All we have to do is ask what is 30% of 414, and according to Google, it's 124.4. His accretion rock does 100 damage, so 207 would translate over to Elden Ring. And if you really want to be that guy, his punch, which normally does 30 damage, would do 62.1 in Elden Ring. Okay. All the math has been accounted for. Thank fuck! Now we can get to the fun part. So, starting off, I do think Sigma actually stomps the Scion at the start of the game, but probably falls for the butterflies at the edge of the cliff. And for the record, I don't think he'd be able to see Grace. So, no Melina, no Torrent, no leveling. Sigma would easily make his way up to Margit, and let me just say, it's not close. Yes, Margit has funny delayed attacks, but with Sigma pelting him with his own balls and giant rocks extremely similar to Rock Sling, I don't think it's too much of a stretch to say he gets him to half health easily, then fluxes him. Next is Godric. While it would be funny to have Sigma skip Godric, it just wouldn't make much sense. Godric isn't even much of a threat until phase 2, which coincidentally happens to be in the range of a good flux. Next, I believe he'd face Rennala, and man does it feel poetic putting the Queen of the Full Moon against Sigma of all characters. Sorry to all the Rennala fans in chat, myself included, but this fight is actually easier than the Scion. Rennala phase 1 is actually a joke, while phase 2 was literally made for Sigma. Due to Rennala's intense spam, Kinetic Grasp would pop off during this fight. Even without premarital fluxing, this is still a stomp. With 2 great runes in his back pocket, he'd be able to head up to the Atlas Plateau. And I'll be honest, the Draconic Tree Sentinel puts up a good fight. However, according to the wiki, this thing has the same poise as Malekith and Margit. And you know what that means. Accretion City. Now it's up to you if you believe Sigma could consume lightning or not. I personally don't think it feels right, so I won't give him that ability. But a few stance breaks and a good half health flux is all he needs, and while it would be nice having some easy fights, this is where the problems start. Enter Goldfree. This piss-stained tyrant is our first questionable dub in the entire thought experiment. He has absolutely no projectiles to consume, so Kinetic Grasp is out of the question, and he's very aggressive. Since Sigma floats everywhere, I don't think his stomp attack would be an issue, but the Axeman. Our saving grace here is definitely the fact that his attacks might as well be screaming at you with how telegraphed they are. I think Sigma, being the incredibly intelligent man that he is, would probably catch on to this and rock him up. Remember, he only needs to get him to half health to flux his socks off. Next up is the rematch of the century, Morgoth versus Sigma. Since the arena is fucking massive, this gives Sigma plenty of room to space Morgoth out. And yes, while phase 2 is scary, you know, with the blood loss and all, you're forgetting one 4-letter word that fixes everything: flux. The next noteworthy challenge on our list is the fire giant, and I'll be honest, while yes, I do think Sigma is smart enough to attack the ankle bracelet on Fire Giant's leg, it's not about if Sigma could dish out enough damage, it's about if he can take it all. Sigma, with his large HP pool and even larger shield HP pool, still has piss poor damage and no mobility. It's not like this video is about Winston or Tracer, you know? Sigma is slow, so while I don't think it's impossible, I definitely see this as somewhat improbable. Fire Giant literally hits like a fucking bullet train, and while it's true Sigma has plenty of fire projectiles to suck up like the dirty slut he is, he still has to get close. Sigma's projectiles aren't sniper material, so if you believe this is where it ends, I wouldn't fault you. Next up is the Godskin duo. Listen, I hate these fucks so goddamn much, I'm 100% biased in this fight. Telling you right now, he wins. Ignoring my hatred for the two, I do actually think he has a good chance here. Stepping away causes both of them to fire some black flame, which would be excellent fuel for kinetic grasp. And the fact that he's a ranged fighter gives him the ability to space out both Godskins. And just for this fight, I'm giving him the ability to flux every single time a Godskin is at half health. I never set the rules for the ability, but it's definitely cheating to say he just spams gravital flux the entire run, so yeah. Coming up next is Malekith, the Black Blade, and he's a tricky one. He's kind of like a glass cannon and has one interesting quirk I need to mention. So you know how Sigma can't suck his own rocks? Well, by that logic, he shouldn't be able to suck Malekith's giant rocks either. Doesn't really matter though, there's still plenty of things for him to feast on, like Malekith's rock sling. Really, Sigma's only threat here is how hyperactive Malekith can be, and how quickly he attacks. Fortunately, Malekith's poise means as much as a laugh track in a modern day sitcom.
Holy fuck, I'm coming. Don't.
I think Sigma gets this easily, and before you mention phase 2, need I remind you of a certain word that rhymes with the second word in the name of the KKK. That's right. Flux. Now that the Rune of Death has been unbound, it's time for our last real challenge of the run. Godfrey. For real this time. I actually think this Godfrey is easier than Pissfree, and that's because the bulk of what makes him scary comes in phase 2, and we all know what that means. Phase 1 Godfrey is just Pissfree but with flesh. All of the giant AoE attacks that require you to be touching the ground are completely nullified because Sigma floats. It's just Pissfree again with some added bulk, and all of his other moves are either extremely easy to strafe or we've seen them already. TLDR, do the funny what is that melody thing. Finally, we have Radagon and Elden Beast. Wait, didn't I skip someone? Oh my god, I forgot Gideon. I forgot Gideon. Oh my god. Do I even have to mention Gideon? Okay, so Gideon spams a lot, like a lot, and Sigma sucks. A lot. Put the two together and Sigma no-diffs this clown easily. Finally, we have Radagon and Elden Beast. And I'll be honest, the only one worth considering is Radagon. And even then, it's a stretch. Ignoring his fucking grab attack, all of his attacks are quick, but telegraphed nicely. And he can be stance broken, quite easily actually. It's definitely harder than breaking Margit or Malekith, but it's worth considering. Really, the only thing holding Sigma back here is the amount of distance closers that Radagon has up his sleeve. While Sigma can absorb the vast amount of projectiles Radagon fires, if Radagon simply decides to say square up and only uses his hammer, Sigma is kinda fucked. However, the chance of that happening is relatively low, and let's remind ourselves, Sigma only has to get Radagon to half health. And yeah, I think Sigma wins 6 times out of 10. Definitely a close one though. Elden Beast, on the other hand, is a complete joke, and that's only because it falls into the same pit hole as Renala fell into. projectile spam. Sucking up Elden stars and the large quantities of other projectiles that this thing loves to squirt out would completely trivialize this boss fight. And yes, I'm aware the thought of Sigma fluxing the entire beast into the air is a hilarious thought, but I don't care. He does it anyway. After getting Elden Beast to half health, Sigma flushes him down the toilet and ushers in his Age of Stars. Get fucked, Ronnie. Some of you may say this is bullshit, some of you may completely agree. And I just want to say to both parties, I'm happy you have an opinion, and I'm happy you stuck around this long. It means a lot to me, because this was actually an extremely fun video to make. If you'd like me to do this with any other Overwatch characters, or if you have any sort of take or comment on anything I said in this video, or any thoughts on how it should have went, comment down below. And as usual, I am terrible at outros. Bye!